2, where we will continue to finalize and refine the glasses model. One thing that you may find, as I mentioned before, when you connect these two layers together, although they are separate, if I, for example, move the frame layer, which is this area here, I'll just use the free move tool for that. You'll notice that the arms come with the frame. If this is something that you want, then it's fine as is. But if you are expecting this to be separated out, you have to go over to the edge tool here, and down here you'll find this split edge command. So select the edges that you want to split to make them fully independent, and then simply hit split. So if I just escape that tool now, go back to my free move tool with frame selected now it moves independently. It's completely free of that geometry in layer 2. So I have my geometry now, and it's in the position that I want it, and I'm ready to start to add some thickness to this. So first of all, I need to select the geometry, so I'll just simply hit this little icon down here on the layer to select all that geometry, and then hit spacebar on the keyboard and go down to shell. And now I will just add some thickness to this piece of geometry that we've got here to complete the frame. If I'm happy with that, then I will just hit escape and Alt D to drop the tool. Now, when I did that last operation, you can see some problems occurred. It made an error down here on this poly, so I need to correct this. So I will choose slide vertex tool, and I will just move these around and just adjust them to where I think they should go for it to make a little bit more sense. And check around to see if there's any other errors that were caused by that last operation. I think this is a little bit too thick here as well, so I may just move these ones in. This is a thinner area of the design, so I don't want it to feel too chunky around that edge. This is okay because this is a kind of a strong point of the glasses here where it connects to the arms, so the rest of it is fine. And I do feel that this edge here is also, it's somehow gone a little bit too thick somewhere along the line. Now a lot of this area inside, we're not going to see any of this, so I can remove this, and I do want to put a lens in here, this orange lens, so I'm not too concerned with how thick this is getting on the inside, but I do just want to make sure that this maintains this kind of thin frame design that we have. So what I'll do now is I'll do the same for the arms layer here, and simply select that geometry, shell, and I will just pull this one out as well. So if I just bring back the previous one here with the extra thickness that I put on there, I'll just increase this one now to match. So something like that, that's fine. So hit escape, Control D to drop the tool. And now we've got this little bit of a mess here, which we can just really easily just clean up. I still want to maintain the distance between these, keep them separate for now. So I'm not going to actually join them up. But what I will do, just to keep things a little bit cleaner than what they are at the moment, is just delete that polygon there and go over to the frames. And I'm going to delete this poly here as well, just because I want to bring these together eventually. So I'm just going to leave those like that so far. That's fine. And I'm going to delete this polygon here and on the arms. Let's hide that one. and I want to delete that polygon there as well. So the idea here is that eventually I'm going to weld these together properly to make a single piece of geometry. I'm just preparing these edges in order to do that later down the line. So with that said, let's make the nose piece that goes over the bridge of the nose here. And I'm going to use this polygon here to do that. So I will first of all just select the polygon just so we can see which one I'm going to be working on, and let's put our reference there. So essentially we're going to be doing this section here that goes over the bridge, and it's only a very simple object, as we can see. So the first thing to do here is to select the polygon. Let's move the 3D reference for now. I don't need that in the way. And also I'll hide that extra geometry in the background. And I'm going to start by just doing a quick inset on this poly. So I'll hit the spacebar, inset, and that looks about right to me. I can just adjust how much that is there and just say OK. And once that's done, I'm going to, again, select that icon. And now I'm going to use my transform tool here. And I will commit an extrusion and just move this. So now I've just extended that out. Now, depending on how detailed you want this to be, we could literally just, if I bring my reference back, we can just rotate that around. We could move that to the side, and we essentially have what we need. Or we could make a little bit more of a detailing on here, where maybe we have an inset here and have some polys coming through. It's really up to you how detailed you want this piece to be. I'm going to keep things fairly simple for now, and I'm just going to rotate this around and move it across to roughly where the center is going to be. And what I'll do as well is I'll just move it forwards a little bit. We have got a slight skew there, so I need to just rotate it around, just bring it forwards there, something like that. Now this feels to me quite chunky and thick on there, so maybe this isn't quite enough. So I can just increase that size there, along there, maybe push it back now a little bit. So with that being done, I'll hit escape on there, and I'm going to again delete that central polygon there, because that is going to be connected to my mirrored geometry once we mirror that. Okay, so with that done now, I'll bring back the arms for this mesh, and all we need to do now is connect these pieces together and just work this geometry a little bit more, just so it all lines up and we get the nice shape here that we have in the reference image. So I'll continue with that now. And you can see here I've got this twisted poly here, so I need to just correct that, just using the slide vert. Okay, so I've just moved those points over there. That's looking okay. One thing that I want to do now is just move these down. Let me just use my move tool. Just move these down here, a little bit too high there. And just start to prepare the mesh now for the lenses. and I want to try to just move these pieces around here, but I'm at a stage now where I can bring this mesh together. So a very quick way of doing this is I can take the arms layer, hold shift down, drag the layer and drop it on top of the frames layer like that, and now this becomes one single mesh. So if I go to my free move tool again and move this around, you can see everything moves together. So now I've combined those two meshes together, I'll continue now to just manipulate the points a little bit and just clean things up a little bit more. So here I'm using the transform tool, just positioning the gizmo roughly where I want it to rotate from. Again, I need to hide the reference, it's in my way, and I'll just move this over. I'm holding shift down to manipulate only the gizmo to place it in the right place, and then I will just use the gizmo itself just to bend that a little bit further around the head there. Once I bring that reference in, I can then just manipulate that a little bit more. Now I'm over the ear here, so I can, whilst those two are selected, I don't particularly want to go over the ear, but the ear on this particular model is quite close to the head there, so maybe I can just pull that out. So what I'll do now is now I've got a complete mesh. Let's hide the reference. I'm going to select these edges just to put a little bit more of a bevel on this. So with them selected, I'll hit spacebar, bevel. It's far too high at the moment, so I'll just reduce that down. And I'm going to change the bevel type, which gives me a more even view point over there. That's okay. So I'll just accept that. And next, what I'll do now is just try to put some lenses in here. I'm going to use a new layer for this, and I'll just call it lens. And what I want to do is I want to use my delete polys tool here, and I want to delete some of these inner polys. Now this opens up the edge of this because this was a closed mesh before, and now by deleting those polys I've opened up these edges to build on. And what I'll do now with this is just simply start to connect these together. And it doesn't need to be anything special. We're not aiming for any really good topology on here at this stage. So I'm going to use my add and split tool. Let's place a point there, place one there. It fills that in for me. Let's do that again. One there, one there. It went the other way on that one. And this is going to give me an n-gon here. So I will probably have to split this one here and here as well, and it leaves me with this small triangle here, but because this is a hard surface object, it's not really going to make much difference, particularly on this beginner's level. So let's go to my quads tool now and just fill in this last one here. So rather than the two-click method, I'm just going to go parallel and snap that one to there, which finishes the main lens off, and then I've got to do the same here. Now this little bevel that I produced on here just helps me a little bit. It just gives a nice little offset to the to the lens. So let's change to 2-click method on this one. So I've got a little bit of work to do here because this isn't quite right. In fact, I think a better option on this one, because I want this to be straight, I don't want the lens to be bent like it was before. What I can do is go over to select and so with that being done, once I've flattened those, once I've extruded and just leveled up those polys there, I can now place my lens in here. So I'll go back over to my okay, so it's just made that a little bit flatter across there. And you can see I've got a little bit of an error on here, so let's just clean that one up. Let's see what that problem was. Polygon there. It's poking through. So these faces are probably a little bit too far back. Let's move them forward a little bit. And now that's done, I'm going to take the lenses here, I'm going to drop them onto my main and then simply go to my mirror and mirror those over. Now I need to just double check with the mirror on. First of all, let's check with, you can see that it was the wrong way, so I need to just move that out. So I'll use my move tool here. Let's just move that way. Maybe move it up a little bit as well. Looks okay. And with that done, just drop that selection and then I'll simply go to mesh and I'll apply the symmetry to the current layer and remove the virtual mirror like so. And so now I have my glasses as a final piece of geometry. Now I can move those around a little bit. I can see some problems with this that I'd like to correct as well. Okay, so trying to just tweak this now. I've got my symmetry on the X, so everything I do to one side is going to be on the other. And what I'd like to do is just change this a little bit. I don't like this part here. I feel as if it should be moved over there so that line follows to that side. This feels a little bit thick here, just reduce that down. So now I've tweaked the geometry and got it into a place where I'm happy with the shapes. What I'm going to do now is just try to improve the kind of overall look of the model. So to do that, I'm going to draw your attention to this area up here where we have retopo frame, UV seams, sharp edge, color island, and smooth view. Now, smooth view is by default always turned off. If I turn on smooth view, you can see what happens to the model and smooth over those areas for us, which is quite useful, but not entirely useful in terms of the shapes that we're trying to and hard edges that we're trying to get in our design. So in order to do that, what we can do is go back to this menu here, and we can use this called sharp edges. Now what I'll do first of all is just create some sharp edges on here just to show and how this works. But before I do that, I'm going to change this color and make it a little bit more gray, like this one. So I'm going to hit colors here, and I'm just going to drop this down to this almost like black plastic type of look here. So with that done now, I'm going to use my select tool here with edges turned on, and I'm going to mark some of these areas that I want to be considered as sharp or more angular. That one there and that one there. I will hit space on the keyboard and say mark as sharp. I will deselect, and you can see now that these blue lines have appeared. Now these are representing sharp edges, and that's why when we come over to this menu here, we are showing those sharp edges. So if I turn those off now, you can see I've just got the wireframe. And if I don't want to see the wireframe, I can turn the retopo wireframe off as well. And now you can see that these edges are appearing more like my reference image here. And over the top, I'm getting a smoother transition, which I've got over here. Now, obviously, I would need to put in a little bit more geometry here to make this top part smoother. Just for this beginner's tutorial, you get the idea with this low poly how we can use these sharp edges to show on the actual design of the object. So let's continue and go all the way around this object. Now you don't need to have these selected, it's just easier for me to see. So I'm going to make sure I've got my show sharp edges just so I can see which ones I've already done. I'll go around the edge of this object here. And again, just check your work. So remove the retopo and remove the sharp edges view, and you can see in the OpenGL the result of that. So the lens, for example, although it's very angular and low poly, we're just trying to fake that smooth lens on there, and the same with this part here. So the last thing I'll do here then is just to make this a little bit more like a lens, I'll separate it out again and just put it on its own layer. Okay, so just to help this along a little bit more, what I'll try and do now is just make these look a little bit more like the lenses. We don't have much control over the colors that are used in here, which would be a nice feature. We do have this color island color, but it's more of a random thing. You only get to randomize the colors that it gives you. I've got the retopo lines back on here, and this is just going to help me to make sure I'm selecting the right edges. All those are done there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to Split Edge, which splits those away from the frame again. And then what I'll do is I'll just select these polys here, which are the lenses. I'll make a new layer, select the new layer, and move these selected polys to this new polygroup layer here by hitting this icon. Drop the selection, and then when I choose the frame, you can see that my frame now is solid because it's selected here, and the lens polys appear as if they're transparent. Now this is a fake way of doing it. The only reason they are transparent, it's nothing to do with me setting the transparency. It's because whichever layer is selected, unselected layers have this transparency to show that they are deselected. And so if I choose the lens here, or polygroup 1, then you can see the frame now has this transparency to it. So it's just a fake way of doing it. It would be good if we could change the colors of each layer and have a transparency, just so we could match what we're seeing here before we go any further, and we can get the model to a nice looking state. But as it is at the moment, we don't have much control over those transparencies and colors, other than this menu here, which is quite limited. So that's the end of the tutorial. What we've done here now is we've progressed by using some 3D reference as well as putting in our 2D reference as well. We've used our 3D reference to help the modeling process, and we've tried to follow very loosely a design that we've created and try to mimic that design. In the next video, we will create a final simple object in the modeling workspace. See you next time.